Welcome to the Penthouse. It is Alec here today. You guys might know me as Perky. I'm here to go over my top 8 Morphrost deck list that I used in Vegas this past weekend. Let's hop straight into it. So first, obviously, we have the Lycan. It is the card that makes the deck go. Discard it, expend 1, search 2 Morphrost. It's gets you whatever you need the moment you need it. Very good card. There's plenty of times where you can resolve this 2 times in a turn, even being at 1 copy with Keone. Um, Hopefully one day it'll come back to 3, but it'll probably be at 1 or 0 for its lifetime. Next we have Narpoon. Narpoon, a very good card. It searches basically everything, every Elestral in the deck. On cast, search a 1-cost Frost Elestral. 4/3, very good attacker as well as the search. Narpoon was actually like the card that I didn't really want to play unless like I knew I was playing into a tsunami. Most of the time I noticed myself keeping, unless this was like the only way to get to Lycan, I noticed myself keeping Narpoon in hand for like a late game scenario or mid to late game scenario where I would like search an A-bomb or search a bat that I needed for a follow-up turn or whatever it was. Most of the time, there's better ways, just hard drawing the Lycan, obviously. But the second best is Indus Keone. Third is Narpoon, but you have to play it because it's kind of one of your starters. Next is the Indus form. Indus form, like the most underrated card in Elestrals, in my opinion. The more that I've played Morphrost, the more that I've come to love this card. On cast, expend 1 in order to search 2 Morphrost and send them to your Underworld. Not a lot of people pay attention to the wording there. They'll forget that you can Pandora's box it. But it's very good at setting your Underworld up for late game plays with Bat, or mid to late game plays with Bat. Most of the time I'm dumping the Chimera, the Terror. Sometimes if I have Keone, you're dumping the Lycan because you get your Keone will get back your Lycan. There's some instances where I'm dumping like a Scorp instead of the Terror. Most of the time it's into Solar. But yeah, it's just an insane card. And then on top of that, when it's destroyed in battle, you can target destroy face down rune. There are so many times where like this card, like people are just so afraid of this card that they'll let it sit on board for a turn, or they will purposefully not play their back roads so you just don't get a pop, which it's like, okay, then you're allowing me to have basically another turn 1 uninterrupted where I can clear your board. And if you don't have another guy, sometimes that can just win the game on the spot right there. So Indus is an absolutely insane card. There are plenty of times where I'm also bringing this back off of a Chimera Bat combo just for the rune destruction effect. I will crash this into a guy just to take out a back row. Very good if they have double back row as well, because you're just crashing in. Even if it's like Argo, you're taking out the other one. I've casted this thing into attack and people will PTA it. I just crash it into their guy, take out their other back row. Like this thing is just absolutely insane. Next we have 3 Chimera, one of the best cards in the deck, in the game for that matter. It's a 5/2, simple effect, discard Morphrost in order to draw a card. Most people will gaze this thing as soon as it's cast in order to stop you from pitching the Morphrost, because the pitch is the cost. So if you pitch the bat, you then negate this, it just stops the draw, you still get the bat cast. So most people have kind of gotten to the point where they know to stop the Chimera, but it's an absolutely insane card. If you resolve, sometimes you can resolve this thing, like the same copy of Chimera, like 3 to 4 times a game. It's just absolutely insane. Next, we have 2 copies of Scorpio form here. Loved this thing at 2. This is another very good card. There were some boards where you'd be looking at like a 5 defender, and obviously like Chimera and Mountains will get over that. But it's just so much better to use Scorp sometimes. Scorp's effect is a delayed trigger, kind of similar to PTA, so they have to gaze it on activation in order for them to stop it. They can gaze it in the end phase if it's still on the board. But what I would do to play around is I would play like a Scorp, and then I would siphon like an Ambro off of it, or I would siphon for a Cryoblast off of it. Obviously, like Cryoblast just takes out whatever because it's already a 0. But like there was an interaction where you could take out a whole fish board with just more efficiently, because like if they go turn 1, they go Aphros, Aphrodite, Nexus, or search 1, Nexus 2 up, and then they special cast. They have 3 under their base Aphros, 1 under their Aphros, that's 4. You can cast a Scorp, pitch your Morphrost, even if it's not a bat, to get other advantage. Pitch your Morphrost, and then so you've spent the 1 spirit. You target their Aphros, then you siphon. If they let it go, you siphon off of the Scorp for Cryoblast, targeting the Champfish, kills that, and then this is not on the board anymore. Obviously, in phase you expend the 2 to take out the 3 spirit Aphros, so it's 3 of your spirits or 4 of theirs. Obviously, you have to have a Morphrost, or you have to have a Scorpio, a Morphrost to pitch, and Cryoblast in hand. So it's not something that comes up like all the time, but it is something that you can do in a metagame that's like loaded with fish. Next, we have 3 Bat Form, another insane card. It's simply when it's discarded, special cast Morphrost that is not Bat from the Underworld, so works very well with your Scorps, works very well with your Chimera, allows you to bring back your, get your second, your third copies of Chimera on the board. It allows you to get your Terror, your A-Bomb, lets you get your Indus to crash, further dump. It does everything that the deck wants to do. This is like one of the best cards in the deck. Next, we have 2 copies of A-Bomb. A-Bomb is the one here it's a bit weird. So it's obviously a very good card. It's a 1/3. It gets +1 for each Morphrost in your Underworld. I was using this as like a quote-unquote late game top end. I noticed that like a lot of people will use their gazes early, whether it be on Narpoon, Indus, Chimera, sometimes even Scorp, that it will just lead to an end game where they don't have a gaze in order to kill this thing or make this thing kill itself in the battle step. So it's kind of like very good for that instance, but it's also like, but it's at the same time, while it's good, it's also like my fourth-ish option to dump off of Indus Swarm. Most of the time, I'm dumping Chimera Terror. Sometimes it's Scorpio over Terror. If I have Kione, I'm dumping Lycan over, Terror. So like the A-Bomb, like there was sometimes like I would resolve an Indus early, and then like the following turn I would go Chimera Bat, bring back Indus, and then if I was ahead on Spirits, if it was like a opponent mulliganed or whatever, I would Indus a second time, and I would send a copy of A-Bomb just to have it ready late game if I needed it. A lot of people will forget about the special cast effect of the A-Bomb, so you can disenchant a Frost in order to special cast more Frost that is not A-Bomb from your Underworld. So even if you just like are stuck with this thing in like a bat in your hand late game, you can cast this, use the effect, get a Chimera back, and then you can use the Chimera to pitch your back, get your plays going as long as you have like the resources. But it's also like you can use this to ascend over something that's stuck on the board. And then this is there, plus you're getting another guy back. It's a pretty good card. I think it's probably, if you wanted to cut down any of these numbers, I think A-Bomb would be the one to cut down on. However, I think it's kind of perfect at 2. And then last for the Morphrost cards, we have the Terraform right here. Another absolutely insane card. It's very, very undervalued. Is that the right word? I guess you get what I'm trying to say. Not a lot of people take this card seriously, but it's very good. Board wide -1 attack for every Frost on it is like insane, especially if you have mountains up as well. This thing will become a 4 defense, and then it's giving everything -1, and then it's very hard for anything that's any 1-drop to get over it. You also can't target it because if I have, or any other Morphrost for that matter, because if you target a Morphrost, then this has an effect. You can just discard a Morphrost in order to negate that effect and destroy that card. There was one matchup I had, I think it was round 7, I want to say, against a fish player. They were on lock in the first game, and then they sided into Oistillery. I had Terror next to another Morphrost. I don't remember exactly what it was. They did not read it correctly and thought that it only negated counter runes, so they ascended into the Oistillery and then triggered the effect, and it was just an instant win because Terror, negate, and destroy. So, yeah. If you get this thing on the board, you are basically immune to Gauge, you're immune to PTA, immune to Earthquake, all of these cards that targets, assuming you have another Morphrost in hand, which 9 times out of 10 that you do. So, yep, absolutely insane card. That's it for the Morphrost package, plus Narpoon. You get it. Narpoon is a Morphrost card. The last Elestral that we actually have here is Morphrost, and this one I didn't actually play Morphrost correctly, I want to say, because I only ever really used this card when I drew it. There are plenty of game states where like you might be looking at a mid-game situation where you don't have any Morphrost, or maybe you're like sitting with a bat in hand and nothing else. You draw a Narpoon for turn. You can go Narpoon, search for your Morphrost, bring back your Scorp or your Chimera, then you're off to the races there. I don't know if it's like I just didn't see the lines with this card, or they just didn't come up for me. It is a card that you definitely want to run as a one of in this deck. It can allow for some crazy plays. It is just so expensive that like I didn't do it super often because the deck is already expensive. Alright, now that those are out of the way, we'll go over our runes. So first off, obviously 3 Kione here. Kione is a Morphrost card as well. It's just such a good card. You can resolve Lycan twice in the same turn. You can use Indus as a searcher with Kione. You can recycle your bats with Kione. If you need to draw another card to get further into the deck to look for your Ambrose, you're grabbing something to pitch with your Chimera. It's just Kione does everything. Like one of it's Keon's also become one of my favorite cards in the game. It's so good, especially for Morphrost. Next, I have what I'm calling like the flex spots in Morphrost. So two mountains, three cryoblast. These are the ones that you can kind of do what you want with here. I opted to go for these just because Chimera under mountains is a 6, which clears fish, assuming they don't have Argo. And then Cryoblast is very good into fish and also Solar, which I expected were going to be the best or the most represented decks in the room. They definitely were. So like these were very good picks here. Mountains is just really good for the deck, making your guys bigger. Also, I talked a little bit about the interaction with Terror earlier. You can just stack up spirits under your Terror and just make it like impossible to get over. Also, like into Solar, you definitely want to see this because it keeps them off of casting Nova Core. So like typically I'm holding this until I see a temple and then I'm bumping their temple after they've played a Nova Core, and then my Chimera just kills because their Nova Core is then a 4 and I'm a 6 at that point. Cryoblast, it kills Lumaru, kills Nebuleo, kills it's Earthquake with Scorpio, which is why I opted to play 3. Um, Initially I had one of these as an Earthquake, and I actually decided like 2 days before the event to just go ahead and put the third Cryoblast in. I'll get into like more of the why here in a little bit. But this thing with Scorp, I talked about the interaction with the fish board earlier. It just hits so many things on its own, and like I said, it is a Earthquake with Scorp. So yep, these are the kind of flex spots that based on the meta you can kind of change these cards in a pure list. However, for Worlds, these were the best options. Next is the 2 Ambro. Probably would play 3 if it was at 3, but Morphrost is so expensive with all of your expending that you definitely want the Ambros for late game. And then we've got our counter runes. We've got 3 Gaze, 2 PTA, 2 Shield, 2 Panda Box, and 2 Altar. This kind of felt perfect all day. Altar is a very underrated card. Like it's one of those cards that like it's so good that like I kind of wish I could play it at 3. However, it requires a bank, so you can't. Um, Morphrost is like one of those that like it can, because it brings guys back so often, they can be banks, but you really don't want to lose them once they're up. So it's kind of a weird card. Wish I could play it at more copies, however, kind of have to play it too. With Mountains and Terror, Altar becomes insane, just because you can. There's just so many ways that you can change combat math with it. You can change, like there's plenty of times like I swung into a tsunami, my Chimera would go to defense, I'd have a Terror up as well. They would attack into my Chimera expecting to get over the 3 under mountains. And I would alter, put a spirit from my Keon up onto my Terror, switch my Chimera back to attack, and then they're crashing all of a sudden. There's just so many things you can do with alter. I probably didn't even use it as optimally as I could. It's just a really good card. Pandora's Box in the main felt okay. It hits Solar very little. But I opted to put it in the main because it hits Hermes, it hits Frost, it hits water, fish. It hits everything like enough to where it's like mainable, but I don't want more than 2. Shield and PTA just very good cards, and then same thing with Gaze. Like I liked the 11 back row. Don't think I really needed more here. There were some games where I kept a hand with no back row, and that's actually what made me lose in top 8. Bit unfortunate, but in that game I opened Lycan, and typically when you open Lycan, you just play the deck. So that was the main deck. 40 cards felt very good. Like I said, my thought was that there was going to be Solar and Fish just all over the place, so I wanted to make sure that I was main decked for those specifically. We'll go over the side deck here. So side deck, we'll go over it pretty quickly. 2 Brumalinks. This comes in against Solar because I know earlier I said you don't want to spend your normal cast on a card that's not a Morphrost, but your Stadium is just so important in the Solar matchup. The Brumalinks comes in. We have the second Terraform. Kind of have to play this as well for it's really good into the fish matchup, just because of the -1 board wide. There's plenty of boards, like I said, if they don't have Argo, you want to bring this in. Next is where like the spice comes in. 2 Thunderstorm. So earlier, kind of like I was talking about with the Earthquake, I had the third Cryoblast was an Earthquake, and I took it out because I wanted to take the spirits out to put in for Thunder against Thunderstorm. This was specifically for Hermes. I actually didn't end up playing a Hermes all day. But this actually came in clutch. In one of my rounds, I played Baraboss. Yoku actually stuck a Baraboss on me turn one. And as they passed the turn, they said, I hope you have rune removal. And then I just played the Thunderstorm and won the game on the spot. Felt kind of bad, felt kind of mean to do. But yeah, I actually really liked Thunderstorm. And the thought process of Thunderstorm over Tornado was I wanted the Hermes to just die. I didn't want them to bring it back the next turn. I wanted it to just die. So Thunderstorm was in, loved it. Really happy I stuck with my gut on that call and took out the Earthquake to play the Thunder Spirits for that. Next we had a Laurels. This was in the side specifically for other Frost matchups. I would bring this in over Cryoblast. Didn't actually play any Frost. Some game twos this came in against like Solar and other decks that had like a big guy that I wanted to out. Next, we have the third P box, the third shield, the third PTA. These were for just any matchup where I needed them. Essentially, I know that's like kind of vague. If I'm going first, I'd rather have PTA. If I'm going second, I'd rather have shields. Like I wanted the third copies of those sometimes. Sometimes you want the third P box. The third P box is for Hermes as well. In testing, this deck kind of annihilated anything except for specifically Sir Tractor's Hermes list. Played Tractor in testing and got absolutely destroyed. So like that's kind of why I decided last second to throw in the Thunderstorms, the P box as well. I cited heavy for Hermes because I was super afraid of it. And then we got two Tsunamis here. Tsunamis were for other Frost matchups. Came in against Solar sometime, just a very good card for certain decks. And then last two here, Spoiled Fruit and Poison Nectar. Two Fruit came in against Hermes as well. So Pandora's Box, Spoiled Fruit, T-Storm for the Hermes, and then the Poison Nectar obviously for the Fish matchup. So yeah, felt very good about this deck. Like I said, wish I could have taken it a little bit further. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Ran into Justin, and Justin is like my wall in Elestrals. Played Justin 5 times in total. The only time I beat Justin is the premiere that I won. So shout out to Justin. You're an amazing player. Lastly, yeah, we can go over the spirits. I kind of forgot about that. So we have the 2 Thunderstorm spirits. We've got the 3 Water spirits, and then 15 Frost. That's it. So, anyways, if you're a Morphrost fan, try the deck out. Probably not. I mean, depending on the list, probably not going to be insane going into the next meta. It just felt so good into Solar and Fish, and I'm happy that I was able to take it to top 8. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile, and we'll see you next time.